So we've had a couple of incidents actually here in Colorado. You had, let's see, Demetrius Wilson, June 3rd, 2022. Demetrius Wilson was murdered by his abusive aunt. That's his guardian, his legal guardian. So that's the only mother he had, Demetrius Wilson. What was it, Susan Before? So Susan Before tied Demetrius up with duct tape, right? Bound his hands, bound his feet, bound them to a chair. And she had got this wooden back scratcher that she had wrapped with duct tape. So that way she wasn't just hitting him with a piece of wood. She said she spanked him the night before. He missed 60 days of school. That's half of school. Both him and his elder sister had missed 60 days of school, who was also in Susan Before's care. And of course, Susan Before, like a child abuser would do, made sure that his elder sister watched as she abused Demetrius Wilson to death. Chris Watts, that infamous guy, right? Killed his wife and his kids when he was hitting his wife with, I think, a baseball bat in her head. Hit her a couple times, and then she said her last words were, "Please stop. Please stop." Let's get exactly the details on that. Chris Watts. And why? Because he came across somebody for his fling on the side, for his side hoe. That's why he did all this. Said murdered his pregnant wife by strangulation and 2 children, Bella and Celeste, by smothering them. Took Shaynan into oil storage facility, dumped his children's bodies into crude oil tanks. He sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole, 3 of them to be conserved consecutively. There you go, 5 life sentences. That'll show him which is the right sentence. It's the right sentence. So, okay, you had that case. That happened in 2018. That was 4 years ago. You had Emily Canales. So the ones that happened this year, Emily Canales, 5-year-old Emily Canales, the mother said she had hit her a couple times in the bathroom, just smacked her in the bathroom like 3 times, and that was what did it. But she had like internal injuries. Her rib was broken. She had ribs that were broken. That's not just a smack. And Emily Canales was loved by her father. And so the jealousy is clear as day on that one. So that's the mother right there, right? She doesn't even really look like she looks like she feels bad or she's guilty. Just kind of like, oh, whoops. Did I do that? Did I do that? Whoopsie daisy. So both of them were arrested for it. And I bet, did he ever speak up for her? Did he ever speak on her behalf? Was he allowed to speak up on her behalf? Hey, you know how you always like to hit your daughter? Yeah, I don't like that. Did he ever speak up? 2 adults in the house, just both of them pounding, abusing the child, just having a good old time, just enjoying themselves. 5-year-old Emily Canales, that's her right there, and that's her father. So she's loved, right? She's loved, and then when they have to share custody, she wants to be loved too, but she's not going to want to be loved by being lovable. She's just going to be awful. And then that's supposed to be good enough. Well, I was awful. So these 2 are going to, what they do exactly with another person earlier this year, January, was like beating his kid in the creek or something. So the 2017 death of a 7-year-old girl had prompted the creation of a statewide task force to scrutinize the state's mandatory reporting laws on suspected child abuse. It's illegal to abuse children in Colorado. You're not allowed to abuse children. You can't abuse children. I don't give a fuck what dumbass fucking thing you think. No, you can't be a barbaric fucking terrorist piece of shit. No, you can't be a barbaric terrorist piece of shit. No, you can't abuse children. You can't abuse children. Keep your goddamn hands to yourself. There's good touch. There's bad touch. Chris Watts, that's bad touch. Michael Ninomiya. So I was mentioning something about this. January 20th, Michael Ninomiya, 42 years old. He and his son, they're pulled out of the frigid waters of a fenced-off drainage culvert along the High Line Canal on Cherry Creek Trail. So January 12th, both are going to be hospitalized, and then he's going to get arrested. And he essentially told him that he had pulled his son into the water, and he had physically assaulted him to the point where he didn't even know if the boy was still breathing, according to the charging documents. And then he began to hurt himself to make it look like it was an accident before he decided to call for help. The boy's mother told police that Ninomiya and the child had left to go on an adventure that morning, but became concerned when it grew dark and they hadn't returned. So, I'll give Michael Ninomiya all the, due deference up until the point he starts pounding on him. You want to go on an adventure? That's good. But then what happened? The kid he pissed you off? What is he, 4 years old? So what could a 4-year-old do to Michael Ninomiya? And let's say there was something, something. He needed to take a crap and he doesn't know how to communicate with his father, and so he just crapped in his pants, and now, he's like, do I smell did you just cry? Didn't you say something? Why'd you and he's all mad about it. And then Jordan Peterson, he talks about there's something about human beings once you get them going. So all you gotta do is just, when people say trigger alert, and then some people say even trigger alert is triggering. Which, yeah, trigger, right? The trigger to a gun. Something about humans, once you get them going. Chris Watts killed both of his daughters and his wife. I mean, is that what who was the woman that he was trying to appeal to? Did she like that? Is that what? Ninomiya. So they arrested him. Jordan Hoagland, 22, arrested on suspicion of felony child abuse. Her last words to Chris Watts: please stop. Even when she's getting murdered, she's mannerly as shit. She is so sweet. You would think she would like a man who was sweet on her, who respected her, treated her right, who wouldn't, beat her to death with a baseball bat, who respected her mind, body, and soul, who respected her rights and her freedoms. So in Colorado, if you're a doctor or a nurse or a teacher and you suspect child abuse, Demetrius Martin, he had a bruise right on his forehead. And to Susan's credit, she actually called 911. Emily Canales, I think she was loved by her father. So the ex-wife was jealous and was like, oh, well, you're not going to love me, well, then I'm going to hurt something you love. Just like Cain and Abel, it's jealousy, simple jealousy. Emily Canales, 5 years old, died after being beaten in the ribs, and she had her head shaved by her mother and the boyfriend. And then she succumbed to multiple blunt force injuries. They hit her in the stomach, they hit her in the head, they hit her in her body until she died. To Susan's credit, she called 911. Solomon had a test for 2 women who were fighting over a child. I also wonder about the support of all these folks. Did they have any kind of support? Or were they going to church and everybody was like, spare the rod, spoil the child. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Even sweet old people always making jokes about how Big Mama's a fucking dickhead. Is it a fucking joke now? Demetrius Wilson's dead. I guess he should have respected. He did respect her. He's a child. He loved her to death. He adored her. If he knew exactly what to do in order to make her happy, he would have done each and every one of those steps. But she didn't know how to communicate crystal clearly to him And then also, none of these abusers ever ask themselves, what can they do? Maybe your 4-year-old just crapped his pants in the back seat of the car, but that's because he was too scared to talk to you. Is that what you want? You want your child to be so damn scared to talk to you that he just craps his pants? I think there's a terrorist piece of shit way of raising kids. That's the way that I was raised. By a bunch of terrorist assholes. And they didn't even... I remember having one conversation with one of them one time. And I said, I don't like the abuse. Can it stop? And then I never talked to that person ever again. Because, no, it didn't stop. Oh, really? You're in hell. Well, I don't care. Okay. So I had one conversation with you. Think about how many conversations you had with your children. Or your parents. More than one? Like a real conversation where you knew that they were... Shut up. Do this. Do that. And then they have all these other people that's saying it's okay. Or they're hitting their kids. So child abusers of birds of a feather flock together. So did anybody, Susan before, did she have a man that was watching her smack this kid around and not say shit? They said that they called child services several times. The teacher, she says, I wish I could have gave him more hugs, which, maybe that would have been nicer, but instead of giving him more hugs, why don't you stop the fucking violence? He's being oppressed, you piece of... Why did society allow that to happen? Is there anything Demetrius Wilson could have done to have lived in America? Could he have done anything? Susan before could have tried to cover up her crime. She didn't. I'm just hoping, like to think that maybe she thought that if she called the EMS, maybe they could get him to start breathing again. Did she call 911 immediately? If not, then that's even worse. How long did she wait? And here I'm still justifying it. I'm still putting my goodness on Susan before. The state identified 41 mandatory reporters, including doctors, nurses, teachers, even nutritionists who have a responsibility to report abuse and neglect. Those tasked with fixing the system said that the definition of neglect is causing issues and that poverty and neglect are being conflated. So there's some, issues there. Just because you're too poor and you're not, providing enough nutrition, you can have an abusive household without being physically abusive. And also, with child services, you want what's best for the family. You want what's best for that child. And what's best for that child is for their own parents to raise them. But their parents have to do family counseling. And they got to learn to respect each other, themselves. And then when their cup overfloweth, then they can help others. But a lot of times people start having sex, kids are popped out, they never thought about it, and now they had a, tough situation as it is, and now there's two people. A 29-year-old Colorado woman, 41-year-old boyfriend facing child abuse charges. After on the western slope, apparently they were from Rifle. So what's going on in Rifle, Colorado? They said a 2-year-old girl was suffering obvious, severe, untreated injuries to her face and body. Yeah, they'll injure the child and they don't call EMS. They don't get them because they're going to get in trouble. Silt Police Department officers in Garfield. Preventive medicine is a lot cheaper than emergency room medicine. Why can't we have some sort of family expert? Just go to every family's house. Go to every family's house just to see if they got the kitchen is running and they got their own rooms and to give them advice. And the idea isn't to destroy families, but the opposite, to make them stronger. Okay, here are some things that I've noticed I would like for you to work on. I'm going to come back here in a month and I would like to see these changes. And as long as you see progress, well, that's the way we're supposed to be. That's the way that they do in public education. Or supposed to. If you're trying to teach a child to read in the 3rd grade, and somebody, a 3rd grader might be smart and know all the way, but then there might be one that doesn't know how to read at all. So how can you, grade them? One knows how to read, the other one doesn't. You're just going to say the one that knows how to read gets all the A's and the one that doesn't? As long as there's progress. In fact, the one that knows how to read could slack off and not do anything, and the one that doesn't could do all the work because they really want to learn something and somebody's there to teach them. So as long as they're progressing, you didn't know how to read last year, now you know how to read some words, you're progressing. You know how to read pretty well? Okay, great. Do you know how to analyze? Do you know how to write? How good is your writing? Why don't you write some letters to the editor, see if you can get published? Garfield County Sheriff's deputies located the child in the vehicle October 22nd near Silt. They took emergency custody of the 2-year-old and a sibling, according to a GCSO. Garfield County. The child's mother, Desiree Jones, Curtis Kumar, were in the vehicle with the 2-year-old. Both were also taken into custody. Burns to her body, other injuries. The child was found to have multiple injuries consistent with the violent physical assault, GCSO stated in its press release. Rifle, Colorado. They transported the child to Grand River Health's emergency room in Rifle for immediate medical treatment and evaluation. So you have all this craziness, insanity, right? And then you have that asshole saying, well, as long as he wasn't gay, Christian Walker, he said that there was, abuse growing up. There was child abuse. There's something about a gun being pointed at her. I don't know the extent of it. Just so long as he wasn't gay, right? That's what that one guy at the Q Club shooter said. Just as long as he wasn't gay. So you could be a total fucking dirtbag, right? Piece of shit. Just robbing, raping, stealing. As long as he wasn't gay. He never paid his taxes or voted, and he never contributed positively or progressively to society in any way, shape, or form. Was he gay? No. Well, woo! We missed a bullet there. A lot of people didn't miss the bullet. They got shot because you're a piece of shit. You're a child abusing piece of shit. Just so long as he wasn't gay. Well, he genocided over 100 million Native Americans, killed 4 million Vietnamese. Currently genociding Yemen right now. Has been genociding Yemen for the past 4 years. Because why? Because the U.S. government worships Saudi Arabia in spite of 9/11. Millions and millions of people are dead. Well, as long as he wasn't gay. What if that's why he did it? You got Bill O'Reilly, Bill Clinton, all these goddamn Roger Ailes, Donald Trump, these oppressor molesters. These authoritarian fascists, these nozo-chomos. You got Roy Moore, Mark Foley, Joe Biden. A bunch of fascist perverts. And what, we were supposed to ask him if it was boys or girls? Oh, just the girls, huh? Well, as long as he wasn't gay. He was involved in a satanic cult, huh? Drinking a bunch of that adrenochrome. Yeah, that sounds like bullshit. Can't you get adrenochrome for like 50 fucking bucks or something? I don't know, you had some... There's only one person I know that talks about adrenochrome. It's that Noah out there by the Labatter Bridge. No, I don't want none of your fucking adrenochrome bullshit. Well, as long as he didn't love any men, woo! Just as long as he wasn't gay. Just as long as he didn't love the same sex. Just as long as he didn't love himself. Just as long as the man couldn't love his son. Just as long as the son couldn't love his... I remember in Justified, strangers thought it was okay that the redneck boy needed to go back to his family. Well, that's where you belong. Now you get on back. Then he was almost killed, or was killed. Yeah, great call, ex-laxes. So Demetrius gets away from the abuse, and then you say, get back into the household. Demetrius gets away from the abuse and says, you know what, I'm going to raise a child. I'm going to raise a household in my children. I'm not going to abuse them the way that I was abused. And then you have Robert Pickerel fucking spotlighting you and your dogs at night. Why? Because you're a respectful, lawful person and you want to raise a household. Free of child abuse in a neighborhood, free of crime in a civil society. Demetrius is the lawful, respectable person. Meanwhile, he's in a neighborhood of criminal, awful, terrible, fucking piece of shit criminals who murdered the fuck out of his puppy, who did drive-bys. And none of you pieces of shit didn't say a word when he was getting beat up by Susan before. None of you pieces of shit are going to say anything today. Not in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, not even the 2020s. This makes me think of a bunch of things. There's no affordable child care in the SLV. Bernie Sanders' socialism would have got us plenty of child care. But we don't want to do the smart thing. No. Let's not be progressive at all. Let's not improve America whatsoever. Let's make sure the Bilderberg Group and the Bidenistas and the Freemasons, make sure they run roughshod over the... They don't want us to vote. They don't want us to give a damn about each other. They just want to keep the power, keep the money, and keep us fighting amongst each other. And as long as they're not being injured, they don't care if there's a bunch of raping, thieving criminals that's running free. Yee fucking haul. That's all they give a shit about. All right, your mama and your papa's... No, get back to your house. Colorado makes sure James Holmes got, a house, shelter, 3 meals a day. He's got security. He's got protective custody. How come we can't give protective custody to our children? A society that's beating kids to death, that's abusing kids to death. It's not just physical. There's a lot of sexual abuse, too. Physical abuse is disrespect for the child's body, and you're going to tell me that hitting that kid's butt is going to make that kid better? You saw that one clip where that guy said he wanted to smack the ass cheeks off the kids. Back in my day, we could smack the damn cheeks off their ass. What the fuck did you just say? You want to do what to my kid, you motherfucker? Emergency room medicine is expensive. Preventive medicine is cheap. There was a guy in Colorado said that he was pissed off at his school and his household, and he had it. And he was going to do something terrible, and then all of a sudden one of his schoolmates said, hey, you want to have a blueberry pie party? And they went and had a blueberry pie party. When Jordan Peterson says that people are dying for the lack of a kind word, when Demetrius gets free of that abuse, why wouldn't society give him a kind word? Good for you. You escaped fucking oppression. Now it's, dog eat dog society. You got to figure out what you're going to do. What do you want to do? How are you going to figure it out? And it's going to be an uphill battle because you don't have people. You don't have family that's going to back you. There was a black woman in Louisville who got arrested because when she was going to a job interview, she had left her kid in the car. She didn't have money. She didn't have money for a babysitter. What the fuck was she supposed to do? She has to get a job in order to survive. The kids are in the car. And I want to say the window was rolled down. It just seems like when good women are doing what they're supposed to be doing, she should have had some child care. Liberate her so she could go get a job and make some money for her family. You're making her sit on the couch and stay at home. You're making her stay on welfare. She tried to do something. She was at a job interview. She had to get showered and all that, and then had to get the kid into the car. And then how old were they? I mean, if they're like 10 years old, why couldn't they sit in the car? Here, read this book. We're supposed to get on a school bus and sit on the school bus for how long? So you have people that's good people, good, lawful, respectable people who just needs a little bit of assistance. And we're going to arrest them, arrest people for feeding the old people, for feeding the homeless, arrest people for doing good for others. What you were doing good, get in the squad car. What the fuck was she supposed to do? Just stay at the house and watch her electric bill and cable bill get cut? She had to do something. But we're going to fuck over the good mothers. And then the mothers that just didn't give a crap to get a job, to not be a terrorist. You didn't even study. I mean, all this internet, all this, you didn't even learn any Maslow's hierarchy. A child is a human, and they're going to need the needs of a human being, which is food, water, clothing, shelter. I've been saying forever, but I also just came across fuel. That's what the How to Survive in the Woods guy says. So we need water, food, shelter, and fuel. Did you know fuel was one of our basic life necessities? How can you call yourself a mother and father? There's very few people that I have ever come across that does not believe in beating up children. I think 80% say it's okay for corporal punishment. But I don't know if some people are city folks and they're saying, hey, go take out the trash and just little chores here and there. While some are on a farm being made to pick tomatoes and green beans and tobacco and do a bunch of dishes for people that don't want to do dishes for other people. Child abusers don't understand Constitutional Convention or a Bill of Rights. They're autocrats. They're monarchists. Bill of Rights, America, 3 branches of government. Russian royalist czars, King Henry VIII, King Charles I, dictators, tyrants. They understand the autocracy. Man, I am killing it right now. What? No.